Hi everyone.
G'day, thanks for tuning in, whether you're watching this live or later. Tonight we're going to talk about Know Your Code, and I think we all live by a code. When I played footy, we'd often go back to the opposition team and spend a bit of time socialising, and while we're socialising, there would be someone appointed as sheriff for the evening, and silly rules were invented. And so one of them was whatever you chose to be drinking that night, there would be a rule you could only hold your drink with your left hand.
Okay.
And so you'd be standing there, and then halfway through the evening, whoever was designated in control would change. And if you were the last one, then there'd be a penalty, often a fine you'd have to pay. And the only way that you knew the change was by watching what everyone else was doing just to fit in. Now, it's a pretty trivial example, but it shows that our code actually helps to identify us. And just by the simple act of holding a glass or a cup in one hand showed that we were part of a particular group. We had a sense of belonging. Now, that's a good example of an external code, a code that someone else applies to us and we choose to conform to. We can also live by internal codes. And an example of an internal code is setting yourself, I get up at this time and then I'm going to exercise for half an hour and then I'm going to get dressed and go for work. And you do that. And you may do that, you may aspire to do that, but for those who do, that's a code that we live by because it shapes who we are. And science will tell us that when we set a goal and then achieve that goal, we actually feel confident about our ability to achieve. And so we're going to explore that a little bit tonight. Do you feel like you live by a particular code or have ever lived under a code?
I don't know. I think for me, like it would be, I live by a code that, I believe the Bible is true, and so I try to live according to that. I probably lived under like other codes that have been placed on me, like when I needed to be at work at a certain time and needing to dress a certain way for a certain job.
That's true. Hey, that's very true. We had someone around this table this morning sharing about the school that they work at, and to be a student at that school you have to dress a certain way and there are repercussions if you don't. And as you're watching this, perhaps you have a code that you aspire to live by. And I remember when I was working in the youth work sector, a mentor of mine said, there's a difference between belief and values. Belief is what you talk about. Values are what you actually do. And when we talk about a code is actually what we actually do. And when we say we have a code, I think it matters evaluating ourselves. How am I going against my code? And often, if it's an external code, it's very easy because you get feedback. Hey, you're not doing the right thing there. You need to change. When it's an internal code, I think it's very easy to slip into this kind of beliefs, this statement of belief. This is what is important to me. But actually, is our code something we're willing to live by?
Or is it just
how am I doing against this? Is it good intentions? That's very true. And I think sometimes it's good to have a good chat, sometimes with ourselves, look in the mirror, but sometimes with a good friend and just be willing to share, this is how I want to live.
Do you see that?
Do you see that in me? Yeah. And when you find a friend like that, that's a good thing. That is a very good thing. But we want to talk about a code to live by, and we're talking about actually Jesus' code. And I want to just share a short verse here. We're reading from Matthew chapter 5, and I'm going to read something that Jesus said. He said, "Do not misunderstand why I have come. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses or the writing of the prophets. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. Now, when Jesus talks about the law of Moses, as we look back now, what he was talking about was really what we consider to be the Bible today. He's talking about that much of the Bible, you know. The law was the first, what we consider to be the first five books of the Bible. The prophets, well, there's an extra few books there, and then the writings are also then what isn't classified as the prophets. But that together, that summed up what the Jewish people used to consider to be their law, their law. And he's saying, all of this, I have not come to get rid of that. I've come to give you its true meaning. Yeah. And so when we were discussing this earlier, we're thinking, well, why would people be thinking I've come to get rid of that? And when Jesus actually started speaking, and we explored actually on a previous video who Jesus spoke to, and he was speaking to people who were on the edges of their community. Some people had left their homes and family. Some people were actually of a different culture that was kind of pushed to the extreme. And he was saying to those people, I want you to change the way that you think, that the influence of God, experiencing the power of God in your life is not some far off event, but it's actually a near event, And so he started and he's saying, this is a new way of living. And when we're exploring something new, I think there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknowns. And yet Jesus is saying, well, if we're going new, it's actually not about completely forgetting what has come before, but I want to show you there's a different way of understanding what's been said. What do you think that difference is?
A little bit deeper, not just the things that are on the surface. Like when you look at this, you know, I think a lot of people were comfortable, and maybe some people, maybe you are, some people are comfortable with following rules and regulations and can tick off, well, but I do this and I do this. But Jesus is saying, but there's something more than just ticking off those external things. He wanted to see what was going on underneath. And it's actually about a heart attitude.
Yeah. Could you be saying there's more to this than an external code?
Oh, there you go. Yes. Yeah, maybe it's where external and the internal one meet.
Well, but I think that's an important distinction to make. If you're watching this and you've had some experience with a religious institution, you may have felt like there was an external code being applied to you that didn't match yours. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Yes. In some religious circles, you know, it's like you're not welcome. We don't feel welcome if you don't seem to dress like
that's
other
true,
people.
Isn't it? Yeah.
You know, you don't behave the same way. Like that's one of the things.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, you know, if we're quite honest, in some religious circles, people don't want to get involved because they feel there is a preconceived external expectation of behaviour that they are going to be squeezed into. And Jesus says, look, there is a way to be. There is a way of living. But I'm going to show you what that is about. And then we've got this whole list. And I think one that we're just going to pick on tonight, we're just going to explore tonight, is this idea of anger. And so a little bit further down, it says, you've heard it said that our ancestors were told, you must not murder. If you commit murder, you are subject to judgment. And Jesus is actually quoting from some of that old code, But he says here, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you're in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you are in danger of the fires of hell. Now, some people may tell you that that is a impossible standard. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it is.
No, you think it's doable?
Yeah.
Let's move down a bit of a checklist here.
Well, I think if Jesus says that you can, but I'm not saying that it's easy.
Let's move down a checklist here.
Yeah.
If you commit murder, is it possible not to murder someone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. If you are angry with someone, is it possible to live your life and not become angry at someone?
I think it's possible. I haven't lived that way because I have become angry, but
yeah, I'm not saying it's easy. I think
there's
it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you call someone an idiot, is it possible to go through life not calling someone an idiot?
It is. Again, I haven't lived that way.
Well, look, yeah.
But I think it is possible. I don't
See?
want to live that way any longer.
There you
but
go.
I
There you
think
go.
It's possible.
But then we come
It's
here
about our choices.
and we go here. If you curse someone, is that
I think
possible?
it's possible.
So these things are achievable, and I think we've had a bit of a joke here. It's good, but let's just say here that this new code it's doable.
Yeah.
Right? It is doable. It's possible. Now it is hard work, but this is what it's about. Living. Like, you can do this. And we might go, that's a bit harsh, you're pushing something on me. But if we flipped it and said, imagine that you were around someone who was always patient with you. What would it be to be around that kind of person?
Well, I think then I would feel more at peace. I wouldn't feel rushed or judged or all of those sorts of things, that come with someone who is impatient with you. Like, you feel like you're always making a mistake, or, there would be, maybe a few less of the negative emotions felt.
Yeah, I think so. And so when you're around someone like this, it makes an impact on you. But then so it's possible. But then the next little bit here I want to go on to talk about, Jesus says, if you are presenting a sacrifice, if you're in the midst of some religious ceremony and you remember that someone has something against you, leave what you're doing at the altar, go and be reconciled to that person, and then come back and finish what you're doing. And for me, this is about priority.
Yeah.
Because we can say, yes, it's possible, but then is it a priority? Because the underlying thing here is my connection with you. Do I prioritize my connection with a fellow human being?
Yeah.
And perhaps you've been involved in a conversation, where someone says to you, I don't care what you think.
Yep.
And that, what's the impact of that on you?
Well, it doesn't feel very nice. Like, you feel like, well then, I don't know, you can't make a difference. You don't feel valued or worthy then. Like, I don't care what you think. It's like, you don't matter.
Yeah, it's true. They're actually breaking that connection, and they're saying, I'm pushing you away. And that can happen for us in the world that we live in, physical, face to face. It can happen online, where there are some people we know deliberately go to cause arguments. Other people will deliberately try and dehumanize you and push you away. And yet it says this new code, this new way of living is actually about, it's possible to live this way, but it's about prioritizing that relationship, that connection, even above any kind of religious practice, which I think is profound here. That if we're aspiring to live a life of faith, Jesus draws a connection pretty directly between how we relate to God and how we relate to one another. And that this connection is actually a reflection of this connection.
Yeah. Well, those are the two things that Jesus ends up saying are the most important things: loving him and loving others.
Yeah.
And in all of this, especially in the bit that you just read us, it's that if someone has a grudge against you, you go and fix it. Because sometimes we are waiting for the other person. We're waiting for that other person to come and fix something. We're waiting for that to happen. And sometimes it's up to us to go, and I know that you've got something against me. Can we work it out? Now, we can't be responsible for that other person's behavior, and they may say no, but we can perhaps be, at least then we know that we have done what what we know to be right.
We've done what we can.
Because we have made the move. Because I think that's the thing that struck me was, again, I have to make the first move and I don't want to make the first move. That person who's wronged me should come to me.
We have done what we need to do. That's what you said. And I
Yeah.
think in this world, that is what matters.
Yeah.
I'm not the victim.
Yes.
It is possible. I can do something.
And I can make that choice, like in all of this.
And
like
as you said, that choice, it may be difficult. It may take effort and energy on my behalf, but it's possible. Yeah. And so we're actually talking about empathy for our fellow human beings, to live a life of empathy and compassion for our fellow human beings. And this is the new code, the new way of living. And as we start to live that, even in this one simple example, what we will start to see is that our worlds will start to shift to become more empathic and more compassionate, and our world will start to shift and become more empathic and compassionate. And that is a reflection of God's love and power at work here. And so we want to invite you to take a step into this new world, to actually start to live by this new code. And I recognize that as you're watching this, for some of you, you're exploring what faith looks like. And there is a new way of thinking. There is a new way of seeing the world, a new code for life. And for others, you're watching this and you've had some experience, and yet both of you may be at a point tonight where you feel, I need to make a shift. I want to embrace this new code for life. And that may be a shift from words into action. And that's exciting. We want to invite you just to pray a simple prayer. And that is, Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. Give me this new code. Give me this new way of seeing the world. And if that's a decision that you're ready to make as you watch this, then just pray this simple prayer. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. And if you prayed that prayer, then you will begin to experience the love and the power that only Jesus can bring in your life. And you'll discover that as you go on to the next thing in your life, your perspective will have shifted. We would love to pray for you. We'd love to support you. And if you pray, just leave us a comment on any of the social media that you're viewing this on. And we'd love to support you in your next step. Thanks for tuning in, and God bless you.